studio, Philip. Thank you, buddy.
Merch.
But thanks for supporting the show. We appreciate it. Joining us live in studio is Chris Gergen. And Chris, I'm not even going to attempt to explain who you are because I don't want to get it wrong. But just before we explain your newest assignment, so to speak, just tell the listeners who Chris Gergen is, what you do, what your relationship is with it, and how that all comes together for you.
So I'm what's called a general political consultant, and I run a company called Dark Horse Political. And I ran Lauren Culp's campaign in 2020 and also in 2022 and, many other races here in Washington State. The job of a GC is basically to be the kind of the general on the battlefield, and to lay out the strategy to make sure it's executed properly, make sure that the organization is being run the way that it needs to be run. And then a campaign manager on the ground is the one that really kind of tackles the tactical side of it. So like if we know we're going to go out and we're going to hit, 30,000 doors this cycle, the campaign manager, maps that out. How are we going to achieve that sort of production? The GC's job is to take a look and see what doors are we going to hit, right? And why are we going to hit them? And with what message are we going to hit them? And so the GC kind of is that central person that works with the candidate, but also works with the campaign and the campaign staff and the volunteers to make sure it all goes in the right direction. And if it gets off the rails, then, it's his job or her job to fix it and to make sure it gets back on the rails. If the candidate takes a hard left when he should have taken a hard right, it's the GC's job to get him back on track or her back on track. Right. And
so in a like a football analogy, you're almost like a head coach where the campaign manager is like an offensive coordinator. You're kind of you're the pivot point. You're the directional.
Yeah. So like so Bill Belichick, if you want to go football, I love football. So Bill Belichick was the head coach, but also the GC. So he made personnel decisions, but also called the shots as the head coach. That's kind of what a general consultant is in the political space.
Okay. Are you a Patriots fan?
I am not a Patriots fan. No.
Seahawks fan? Lie to me. Seahawks fan?
No, good answer on the Patriots.
I live in Las Vegas, and so I'm a Raiders fan.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, yeah.
I became a Raiders fan as soon as they went to Vegas.
There you go.
Just because I like the city.
Come on. It's a great city.
You live in Vegas?
I do.
I'll be down there a month from tomorrow.
Well, come see me.
I will for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get together.
Well, let's do it. We'll exchange numbers before we go. I'd love to. Yeah. So, you mentioned Lauren Culp. We're going to talk about that in a little bit because it's definitely something we're going to get to because I railed about it last week on the show. And since you've worked with them, I want to get your thoughts. But before I do that, you are involved in a local race.
Yep.
A guy that announced yesterday, a name that's going to be very familiar to people that have followed politics and have voted in elections around here in the last while. And I'm really excited. You are going to be working with Jesse Young as he attempts to get back into the representative seat in the 26th district.
Yep, he is, and I'm excited to work with him. Jesse's become a friend. Like he's not, for me, this race is more than just a client, GC relationship. Jesse's a friend. I love Jesse. Not only as a man, I love his family, and he's got wonderful kids, and just his wife is just such a wonderful person. He genuinely is one of those people out there that is just a good human being.
Yeah.
And he's out there doing it for the right reasons. Everybody's got detractors. Everybody's got, things that people say about other people. But at the end of the day, the people that actually know Jesse, to know him he's just kind of got to know him as to love him.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be a part of this race and his comeback and to get that seat back, frankly, where it needs to be.
Yeah, and for those of you who are out of the loop, Spencer Hutchins was the one that won the seat when Jesse went up and fell to Emily Randall for the state Senate seat. Spencer has announced he's not running for re-election.
Right, one and done.
Yeah, one and done. So he's going to go back to his pre-political life.
Sure.
And that opens a seat up. And Jesse was the one that had held that seat for a while.
Yeah.
And so he seems to me to be a logical choice. Can I tell you my favorite Jesse Young story?
I love it. Let's tell it.
So I was going to a church in Port Orchard, and we did a homeless outreach once a month. And I invited Jesse to come to the homeless outreach one Saturday morning. He wasn't able to make it. The next Saturday, he just showed up. He didn't bring photographer with him. He didn't bring a scribe. He didn't bring a press. It was just him. And he came and he served. I turned around for a minute and turned back around, and he had grabbed a broom and was just sweeping.
Yep.
You know, the next month I didn't invite him. The next month he showed up again, and he brought 2 of his sons.
Right.
And he said, I want them to learn what it is to serve. I
Yep.
want them to see what they can do, the impact they can make.
Right.
And he did the exact same thing, but he's never asked. You know, he didn't put it on his Facebook page.
Right.
He wasn't trying to get hits or clicks out of it. He wasn't
Right.
trying to earn votes. That's just the kind of guy Jesse is. He
That's
wants
right.
to serve people and make an impact.
That's exactly right. And you know, politics is it's a full contact sport for those of us that are involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the higher you go up, if you're playing at the state level or local level, and then the state level and then the federal level, you know, the players get bigger, they hit harder, things move faster, there's more money involved, there's just everything is bigger. And one thing that people don't really see is that all of these people, no matter whether I'm dealing with a congressman or congresswoman, or I'm dealing with a local, you know, dog catcher, they're all people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're all people. And we tend to see our sports stars, like Tom Brady's just a dude.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's a dude that's won a lot of Super Bowls and can throw a football pretty well, and he makes good decisions. But at the end of the day, he's a dude. He's just a man. Right? And Jay Inslee is just a man. I don't think he's a very good man, right? Bob
He's not very
Ferguson,
bright.
no, he's not. He's certifiably dumb. I've been around him. He's not very bright. So,
I interviewed him in this very station when he ran for U.S. representative.
Really?
The first time he ran, I interviewed him in this very station. And when he walked out of the studio, I thought, this guy has no shot. He is dumb as a box of rocks.
Oh, he really is.
He did. There's nothing about him that would impress you.
So when Lauren Culp debated Inslee in October of 2020, Lauren embarrassed the sitting governor.
Yeah.
And I was there. I was in studio. They were in separate because, you know, COVID's going to kill us all. So they had them in separate rooms, literally right next to each other. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. No one was wearing a mask. It was totally just dumb. It was all like a dog and pony show, you know. And so they've got Inslee in one, and he's got a handler with him. And then there's Lauren. Oh, absolutely. And the handler actually pointed him to the bathroom, like took him to the bathroom. So, you know, it's like, wow. Yeah. So, and then Lauren is in the other. And then when they get done, Inslee comes out of his booth super pissed. I mean, red-faced. Really? Super pissed because he knew he got embarrassed. Mm-hmm. And he said something to his assistant, and they like left immediately. Didn't say anything to the staff that was working the show. Nothing. Just rolled out. Just got out of Dodge. He was not happy. And then they wouldn't do a second debate because I asked immediately. I was like, "Hey, you guys want to do this again?" No reply. Crickets. They were all done, and because it was nothing but a liability for him at that point. Yeah. Right.
He had nothing to lose, and he had nothing to gain and everything to lose at that
point.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's interesting. You have the same dynamic with Reichert. I know we're going to get into this later, but with Reichert and Semi, and Reichert doesn't want to, you know, doesn't want to debate Semi because Semi has everything to gain and Reichert has nothing but downside there. Yeah. Right. And so tactically, it makes sense. I can see from Reichert's and his staff, I can see why they're making that decision. You know, why would I put my guy in a situation where he's got nothing but downside?
Reichert's a smart guy, though. Sure. He should look at it as an opportunity for the people to hear him.
So that for me, I'm glad you said that. That is something that for me is a separate issue. I understand that you're putting them together, but he needs to do, and I've said this publicly before, he needs to do a better job on the ground. In fact, I just said this to one of his staff members yesterday, who's a fantastic human being. He's a great guy. You know, I'm like, man, you guys got to get him out on the stump doing belly button to belly button. Like, he's got to get with the people, talking to the people, and really connect with the people. And he's not doing that, especially on the east side.
Right.
And that's where Semi has really, because Semi has this really engaging, warm personality, right? And so he's easy to connect with. And Reichert, not so much, right? I mean, he's just his demeanor. I mean, he's a cop, right? So that's kind of maybe has something to do with it. It's not that he's not a nice guy. You know, I saw him yesterday, but it's that, you know, when you're in the DC bubble, I can say this, everyone that I know in that bubble, you're kind of disconnected, right? And then he was there long enough that just becomes the way that you handle yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're running for a gubernatorial spot, like, you need to be a man or woman of the people.
Yeah.
Because they live there.
Yeah.
And you live there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get to go away to DC and kind of sit in your little office in the Eisenhower building and hide.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you're in Olympia. Like, they know where you live.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, they can come find you if they want. And so you want to, just that alone, the dynamics of a gubernatorial are much different than congressional. And you've got to become a man or woman of the people if you're going to be a candidate at that level. That was something that Lauren, I feel like, did very well in 20. He was definitely a man of the people. And if anybody would disagree with me on that, then obviously he didn't come to any of the rallies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you get a guy.
The rallies were nuts, man. I mean, he did a rally here in Port Orchard that we went to, and it was just, it was insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's, I haven't seen that. Well, I haven't personally seen that from anybody, let alone a Republican, but a Republican to get that kind of following, that kind of energy. I wish it had turned out stronger at the polls. I wish that energy had translated better at the.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, so when I broke down all the numbers, Lauren got roughly the same amount of votes that Inslee did 4 years prior and beat Bryant by a mile.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the vote count we needed. It was interesting. I had conversations with Caleb, who's a former WSRP chairman, as the ballots are coming in. And I said, hey, man, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Are you seeing all these new registrations? Almost 500,000 in the last 2 weeks before they counted ballots. And magically, now I'm not saying that Lauren won the race, but I'm just saying magically he lost by 500,000.
Yeah.
Lauren lost that race by the same number of people, or by the same number of votes that we lost King County. And he was dominant in most other places. There were some places where I think it was sketchy. Skagit, I know was sketchy. Clark County, I know people came across I know for a fact that they came across the bridge from Portland and voted in Clark. There were some other places that I feel like we underperformed. Island County, I feel like we underperformed. I didn't spend enough time. This is me being critical of me. I didn't spend enough time in Kitsap County. Kitsap is kind of the bellwether county. As Kitsap goes, so goes the rest of the state. Typically, it mirrors what happens in Kitsap happens across the state, right? So you've got to do well here. And we didn't spend enough time. That was maybe a strategic error on my part. If I could go back and, Monday morning quarterback this, right? If I could go back and make that change, I probably would do that. We spent a lot of time up and down the I-5 corridor and, talking with the folks and this is something that I've taken criticisms from the Seattle talking heads and all those people. Even Brandy Cruz has criticized me. And I like Brandy a lot. She was very helpful to us in 2020 and was always very kind to me. And I have nothing but love for Brandy. I don't necessarily agree with her on everything, but I think that she's a good person. It's I get this nonsense about, it was a social media campaign, but they don't understand the fact that we were in the middle of COVID. What do you think happens if Chris Gergen sends staff members into King County to knock on doors in the middle of COVID with everyone scared in their houses?
Yeah.
What do you think the media looks like on that?
It would be
a nightmare.
It'd be a dumpster fire.
The only reason I got away with the rally thing was because Inslee made a tactical error by allowing Antifa to burn down Seattle without any masks on.
Yeah.
So I was like, great. We're not going to do rallies. They turned into rallies, but we're going to call them protests. And so what we did was we went out and we protested. And at one point I dared the governor. I was like, come arrest us. Oh my God, come arrest us. Do it.
Please.
See what happens to the polls if you come and arrest us, arrest anyone here that is out there exercising their First Amendment rights. Yeah. Right. And they left us alone.
Yeah.
They left us alone. Now, they watched us a few times, but the state police weren't going to come arrest anybody. You kidding me? No way. The political backlash on that would have been terrible.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, that's kind of a little background on how that shook out. But
well, let's talk about Culp a little bit.
All right.
And again, you're not correct me if I'm wrong, you're not affiliated with a Culp candidacy or anything at this time. So
no, I haven't handled anything from his social media to now. Lauren and I, to full disclosure, Lauren and I are friends.
Mm-hmm.
I like Lauren very much. I think he has a wonderful family. I love his wife dearly. They both treated me with nothing but kindness and respect since I have known them. And
Mm-hmm.
Lauren and I have spent a lot of time on the road together, a lot of rallies, a lot of dark nights, standing in the rain, talking to people about the Constitution and why we need to elect a Republican in Washington State. And, and then after they spent $2.5 million and flooded his congressional race with candidates that couldn't win just to pick him off, mm-hmm. he still only lost by 1,500.
Yeah.
Right. And so after that, Lauren was done and I understood that. And his lovely wife was like, thank you, sweetheart, but no more of this. And, and so Lauren, obviously he honors his wife and loves his wife. And I think he was just tired.
Yeah.
Right. And so really since August of 22, I haven't had anything to do with Lauren as far as his anything political, any of his social media. I don't handle any of that. I haven't handled it since then. I've never handled his Twitter.
Yeah.
And
his Twitter's been fun lately. And I don't mean fun as in good. I mean fun as in like get the popcorn and wait for the next post.
Yeah. I've heard.
Yeah.
I get text on it just semi-regularly.
There is and I spoke about this on the show last week. There is a feeling to me, and you should be aware of this. I consider myself a Democrat.
Okay.
Now, I'm not a liberal Democrat. I'm more of a moderate, Reagan-y, Clinton-y, like middle ground moderate
a blue
Democrat.
dog.
Yeah, I'm I'm the last of a dying breed.
He still has grasp of common sense.
Oh, I see. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
I'm the last of a dying breed. So as an outsider, as I watch this transpire, and speaking specifically about Culp, so Culp has gone after Reichert. Culp has gone after anybody who supports Reichert. He's gone after Maycomer. He's gone after Brandy Cruz. Mm-hmm. He's gone after Travis Couture, who we had in last hour, called Travis Couture a bitch on multiple occasions. Before anybody asks why I didn't bring that up with Travis, I'm not trying to get into mudsling with Travis. We had other stuff to talk about, but there is in Washington State, it feels to me like there is always this war over who's a rhino. Like, oh, well, you're a Republican, but you're not really, you're purple.
Right.
You're not red enough.
Right.
And meanwhile, the Democrats have, for whatever reason, figured out, well, if we're going to have issues with our candidates, we're not going to do it in public view. Mm-hmm. We're going to handle it quietly. We're going to handle it behind the scenes. We're going to make it work. So when it goes out to the general public, we look harmonized. Mm-hmm. And I worry that what happened to Culp, which was, there was a lot of Republicans that thought Joshua Freed was not red enough, that Tim Eyman was not red enough, and there was a division. Uh-huh. We're seeing that same division now with Byrd and with Semi Byrd and with Dave Reichert. Mm-hmm. That's going to wind up. And I'm a Democrat. Mm-hmm. If Bob Ferguson gets elected to the governor's office, I'm going to throw myself off the Narrows.
So Freed was a terrible candidate, and he was an establishment guy. He was squish. And I was glad to beat him and beat him badly and to cost him $500,000 or more of his own money. I fundamentally don't like him. I've told him that to his face.
Really? Okay.
Don't care. He lives in Florida now. He'll never hear this. And if he does, I might email it to him. I don't care. I don't like him. He's fundamentally not a good person. And I had no problem just beating him. And I didn't have to do anything dirty. I just had to tell the truth. Mm-hmm. Right. And with Tim, we were very careful with Tim because, and I like Tim. Tim Eyman is a good guy. He and I have texted, on occasion on some things. And I've supported the things that Tim has done as far as initiatives go, but Tim is Tim. Right. Mm-hmm. And for better, for worse, Tim is Tim. And you just have to take Tim for who he is. Right. Mm-hmm. And in the gubernatorial, we were chasing the same voters that Tim was. And Tim had a lot more name ID than Lauren did at the time when he got in. And so I was very careful not to do anything with Tim that would be perceived as attacking him. And so I put Tim and Tim's team into a position to where they had to climb the same mountains we did. Right. So when you get into an election, so the very first thing you do is establish rationale and story. and then you wrap your general narrative around it. And then at that point, you're ready to climb the 2 mountains that are ahead of you. The first one's fundraising, and the second one is name ID. Mm-hmm. And you have to do them in that order, because if you don't have the fundraising, you can't do the name ID, right? And so Tim had the name ID, but I wanted to force him into climbing those 2 mountains. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make him beat me. And so, unfortunately for Tim, he had some staffing issues. And so he was never really able to get cohesive in his messaging. And, he tried to kind of wing it. You know, he and I have talked after everything, and he came on the stump with us for Colt the rest of the way. Right. And that's not a dig on Tim at all.
Sure.
And I like him, but that's just my assessment of the situation he was in. And none of the other candidates were viable. And so I didn't really worry about any of the rest of them. Fortunato, I wasn't worried about him. Mm-hmm. He punched himself out in the first 10 minutes. And then really Freed was the guy because he had the money.
Yeah.
And that was the one I went after. And once we pulled ahead of him in about May,
yeah,
I wasn't worried about him.
No?
Nope.
Okay. Hold that thought. We're going to go to break.
Let's do it.
When we get on the Facebook side, we'll check in with your guys' comments in chat. And then when we come back, I have a tough question that I'm going to ask.
I didn't study.
It's tough for me to ask this question, and he might punch me for asking it. But we'll find out. Stick around. It's Outlaw Radio. For those of you on AM, enjoy the commercials and patronize our sponsors, because my wardrobe depends on it.
Absolutely.
Outlaw Radio. Back after this. All right, Outlaw Radio. We're on the Facebook side, Chris, so you can swear now. Congratulations. You can get out whatever you want to in the next 2 minutes.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I promised Jesse, I promised myself, I promised my wife on the way over here, I won't say bad words.
Okay,
because I cuss like a sailor, so because I was one. So you know what? It comes honestly.
Awesome. Oh, hold on. Do we have an issue with the microphone?
I say something.
Did you bump your mic?
I don't know.
All right, let's try that.
No. It's still weird.
Check.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
No,
mine's working.
Can you turn that one off? Yeah. All right, hold on. All right, now talk real quick, Chris.
Talk.
We're
back.
Yeah, we're a state-of-the-art organization here on AM Radio.
Nothing but the best. That's what we do. That's how we roll it.
A couple quick comments in chats for you, Chris.
Okay.
Paul said it's not Paul. St. Paul, the voice of reason. My co-host, who's not here.
Oh.
He said it's not okay for any candidate to refuse a debate with an opponent. Any party that accepts that should be ashamed. Candidates asking for voters should always be willing to have a debate.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with it, but I don't disagree with it only because I think he's right. But I think from a strategic standpoint, are you going to give leverage, like in this case with Semi and Dave Reichert?
No.
All they're going to do is hurt each other, and you're going to give Sideshow Bob the ability to garner up some leverage.
So I'm going to break my promise. We still on Facebook?
Yes.
No, it turned into a shit show.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
Yeah. No. Yeah. From your standpoint, it makes perfect sense.
Do the people deserve it? I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
Probably they should deserve. I agree from that perspective, but there's no way in hell that I would allow. Again, you got to earn your right to be on the platform. Would we have a debate if there was? Would we have a debate if there was only, one candidate in the race? What's he going to do? Stand there and talk to himself for 3 hours?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why would I do? So
you're a boxing guy, right? You're in Vegas. You like boxing?
Oh yeah, I love boxing.
Yeah. Would Mike Tyson just take on a nobody from Long Beach?
No,
because Mike Tyson would have everything to lose, and that nobody from Long Beach has nothing to lose.
That's exactly right.
If he gets one lucky punch, he's now made a name for himself at the expense of the heavyweight.
And that has happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Buster Douglas. That's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And it's one of those things where do the people deserve it? Yes. But the people also deserve viable candidates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that we're in a situation where Semi at this point is not viable.
Yeah.
Is he liked? Sure.
Yeah, we've had him on here a couple times.
And he's a nice guy, and I've talked to him.
Likable guy. Yeah,
I've talked to him.
He says all the right things.
He does, and he's very engaging, and so forth. But I've told him, the first time I've actually had a conversation with him was, I want to say 3 weeks ago, now, maybe 4 weeks ago, and he was a year and a half in, and the first time he talks to Colps GC that ran the show is a year and a half in, when he's on the ropes and looking for help.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Yeah. All right. So just so we're back on AM now.
Got it.
So no swearing.
No swearing. Right. Got it.
No swearing. And if you were on AM and you didn't hear him swear, he never swore.
No,
he's keeping his promise.
No idea what you're talking
keeping
about.
His promise.
Never do that.
Can I ask you the hard question?
Let's do it.
And take the spirit of what I'm asking, not necessarily about the person I'm asking.
Sure.
Would Joshua Freed have been a better candidate in the state of Washington for the governor's office, given that he was a little more moderate, a little more purple, in a state that leans so hard blue? Would he have had a better chance? Again, not him specifically, but in a state where we just, for whatever reason, vote blue no matter what.
Right.
Would he have had a better shot in a gubernatorial election?
No.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because if we're talking about Josh Freed himself, or a candidate like Freed, so a candidate of like Freed, like Dave Reichert, right, would have a better shot. But Freed himself had, a few problems with the truth. Right. Which is why he's no longer in the state. Right. And spending money that's not yours. And, it's just not okay. And so one of the things that, for better or for worse, Republicans are and I think it's for the better. We expect the people that run for public office to be honorable people, at least at a most fundamental level. Right. And there were just some questions there that with him that he just wasn't telling the truth on some things. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
And
it always makes me nervous about a candidate when they run for an election and then they lose. And the minute they lose, they hightail out of the area.
Well, he ran for lieutenant governor because he was pissed. And remember, he pivoted and did a write-in campaign. He got embarrassed. And there were a lot of people that were embarrassed. The Republicans didn't have anybody in the lieutenant governor spot. They had talked about Susan Hutchinson running for lieutenant governor in a write-in. I actually had conversations with Susan, a couple of them, very cordial. They wanted to do like a 1-2 punch, and because we had a lot of momentum at that time, and we were getting 3,000, 3,500 people at our rallies, which is something that had never been done in the state before. And so, they said, if we do this, we would take her, kind of 1-2 punch, put her on the platform, get her in front of people. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. Right. I talked to Alex Hayes a couple times, who's another GC in the state. And she opted not to do it because Josh blocked her and Josh got in first. And so she called and said, Chris, I'm out. And so, which upset Caleb. There's this big brouhaha going on that most people don't even know. Like there's a lot of fighting going on behind the scenes, and Josh was just pissed and he wanted to burn it all down. And so he went from wearing his, raspberry, skinny suits and, shoes, leather shoes, to, wearing like jeans and looking like a hobo and putting on a, it was so weird. Like it was just really was strange. And, he got smashed in lieutenant governor, and then he runs for King County chair, and then he has some problems there. And then finally he just leaves. Right. Yeah. He just rolls out. And so it was just a very sad thing. And a lot of people got upset and a lot of people were hurt. But this divide, man, it's in the party. I'm actually, one of the reasons I'm back here is not just to help Jesse, but I've got other clients on the east side. But one of the reasons that I'm here right now, in fact, is to meet with some of the stakeholders throughout the state on the conservative side and on more the mainstream side. And I know this is going to shock a lot of people, but is to call a peace, kind of a truce, like a peace summit, to sit down and say, okay, like we got to stop this. Yeah. Like this is not good. And this is a situation that is just getting really nasty, and it's toxic, It's repugnant. It pushes people away. And a lot of people feel like they have a right to be right.
Mm-hmm.
And if they lose the race, then they go home and they pout and they're like, well, I was right. Winning elections is not about being right, and all respect to you. If being right won elections, there would be no Democrats, in my most humble opinion.
Okay. All right.
I say that. I say
with
the utmost
given the
respect.
state of the Democratic Party right now, I can't argue with you.
Right.
There wouldn't be any Republicans either.
Right.
He's a libertarian, just so you're aware.
I'm just saying. Oh, you're a libertarian. Okay. So, it just, Democrats tend to be wrong on a lot of issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Democrats would say the same thing about Republicans. But me, I'm a constitutional conservative, so I say the Republicans, while I agree, are not always right on issues. They're closer to what I believe, And so, conservatives are so bent on being right. Well, it doesn't matter if you're right if you don't get elected, right? So I'm not saying don't have your convictions. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that run your races smart. Don't be combative unnecessarily, right? Be firm. I think we need to be, there are issues like, and I'm not going to discuss this one tonight, so don't ask, but I will bring up like the abortion issue. Why do Republicans run from that issue? Oh, well, it's not popular. It doesn't poll well. Well, maybe you're just weak. Maybe you don't know how to talk about it. Maybe you don't take the Democrats to Claims Day and show everybody exactly what they're voting for, right? You talk about the Second Amendment, pushing it back on the Second Amendment. Well, why don't we take them to Claims Day? Why are we running from that issue? Why don't we take people and show them what a society looks like where this has happened?
Yeah. And been to Venezuela lately?
Yeah. Right. It's, and I know that situation personally, my wife is a human rights activist. She runs one of the largest human rights organizations, conservative human rights organizations in the Western Hemisphere. And she is from Bolivia. She had to escape from a dictator. She led the rebellion against the dictator, Evo Morales, or was one of the leaders. And he tried to have she and her family killed. Really? And she had to flee the country. She came to the U.S. legally as a legit political asylum. It was granted. She became a U.S. citizen. She's here. And, she continues the fight. And she was just down in Argentina. She is all over the place. And she's fighting the good fight because she doesn't want that here. And that sort of socialist, nobody has any sort of way to defend themselves. The government provides all. She doesn't want that here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Argentina just went libertarian.
It did. So Milei, my wife was down in Argentina for Milei's inauguration.
I'm keeping a close eye on that. I'm very curious to see how that country plays out over the next couple of years.
I would love to if she's interested. I'd love to have her on the show. I would love to talk about her story and then how that story translates into what we're seeing today here.
Oh yeah,
as compared to what she's already been through. So I just
absolutely.
I'll
tell her.
Yeah, talk to her about that.
Yeah.
So how do you? Okay, let me ask it this way. In your explanation, then, it sounds like at least some of our Republican/conservative candidates haven't mastered the art of the message.
No.
How do you fix that? Because when we look at the legislature, the Republicans are only a couple seats away from giving up supermajority to the Democrats in the House.
Mm-hmm.
The governor's mansion hasn't been held by a Republican in 40 some odd years
since 1988.
Yeah, so I mean the
but who's counting, right?
Yeah, or 30 some odd years. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, it isn't something that has caught on,
right?
As a strategist,
right?
How do you fix that before any more headway is lost?
Well, I mean, as far as any more headway, I don't think we've seen the bottom. Right?
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the bottom. And I mean, with the current leadership at H-Rock, we haven't seen the bottom. And the guy JT just left, and which is good. I think it's good for the party. The guy that they replaced him with, this is a problem with the party, with the Republican Party. In my most humble opinion, is that they have peacetime generals in a wartime situation. You have all these leaders that are calling the shots on strategy. Not one of them, zero live in a district that is contested.
Okay.
They're all deep red districts.
Right.
None of these people have ever run a race. They just show up, put their name on the ballot, raise a couple $1,000s. We're good. Look how awesome I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm going to quote the great philosopher Mike Tyson. Right? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans keep getting punched in the face. And so I'll give you an example. Last cycle, John Braun, I'll name names.
Okay.
Right? So John Braun spends $250,000 in like a D+14 district.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
A D+14. You could run Jeffrey Dahmer in that race as the Dem, and the people will vote people eater 10 out of 10 times. That's just a reality of it.
And by D+14, you mean it's a Democrat district with a 14 percentage point swing.
Yes.
That way. So it's like a massive hill to climb.
Yeah. So if you're D+3 or R+3, roughly,
mm-hmm.
it gets infinitely more difficult past then to win. So if you're in this R+3 to this D+3 swing, anywhere in there, it's typically winnable. Right? Yep. Are there examples where that's not true, where, outliers? Yes, there are outliers. Mm-hmm. There have been D+6s that Republicans have won and R+6s but that's not typical. Right? So if you're in that sweet spot. So D+14 is like, what?
Forget about it.
Yeah, like, what? Why do we even have a candidate in that race,
mm-hmm.
let alone spend $250,000?
Yeah.
But then you get a district like District 26 that Jesse's in, and they give him hardly anything.
Yeah.
Why? It makes no sense. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to their strategy, except there's internal politics that go into the party. And so, listen, we got you, brother. Don't worry about it. We got you. And so then they funnel money into races that, why? Yeah. Why are you spending that money there?
Well, I had the exact same issue before, and Michelle Caldeer is the other 26 state rep, and I'm not a fan of Michelle Caldeer at all.
Sure.
Just so we're clear, I'll tell you about the $20 later. But one thing I didn't understand was the Republican Party is looking at that as a seat. It's a Republican held seat, and yet they put up Alicia Beeler, and I think Randy Boss ran against her, and why are you encouraging anybody that's a Republican to run against your Republican in an incumbent seat? Why wouldn't you tell them to sit down and be quiet and not give the Dems the ammo that you guys are going to stir up between yourselves, duking it out?
Preach.
Yeah. All right, hold on. We're going to go break. Stick around. Your comments in chat and more with Chris Gergen next. This is Outlaw Radio. All right, Outlaw Radio. Again, in here with Chris Gergen. Let's check. See, I'm not even looking at the chat, by the way, people. I'm not even looking because I'm just really into talking with Chris. So I'm going to scan through this really quick.
I'm trying to pay attention.
Are you? Is there anything in there we should add? Jesse wants to know when we're having the steak off with me and Paul. Jesse, whenever you want, man.
Neither you or Paul stand a chance against me. So.
Oh, for God's sakes, Tom.
Ask Dennis. Ask Dennis.
See, nice. See, listen, Tom, I imagine as a libertarian, Tom does not season a steak because he doesn't want to pick a side, so he just leaves it in the middle and doesn't do anything.
Shots fired.
Yes, Phil.
Am I right, Tom? Salt and pepper, right?
Oh God, no.
No, he doesn't. He's a libertarian.
Salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic,
there you go.
Onion powder.
Come on now.
A little bit of churned
I guess he's
butter.
a little communist too.
No. My steak. Dennis, help!
I feel like, as libertarians, they don't really take a stand on anything. They're just like, whatever goes.
Ouch.
Whatever.
Oh, you're so mistaken.
Whatever.
You're so mistaken.
Okay, we'll involve you in the steak. Like Jesse's going to mind having a third steak to try.
Oh,
Come on.
no.
Come on. Yeah.
Oh,
we'll
no.
do it with Jesse.
Question is, will the security guard mind if we have the barbecue outside?
No, we'll have
in
to
the
do
fire
it.
department.
Yeah, in the fire department. Yeah. And they'll make us get permits.
Right.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Of course.
Why? We just
Jesse said he'll be a fair and impartial judge.
we can
I'm
grill
sure.
out back behind the distillery.
We could do that.
do it.
That'd be awesome. All right, we're gonna come back on.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, we'll tell you about it in a second. Outlaw Radio. We're coming back on AM after this. It's Outlaw Radio with Chris Gergen.
I'm Brandy Cruz, host of the Undivided Podcast, and you're listening to Outlaw Radio. Good luck.
All right, again, Brandy's going to be on with us again.
Oh, yeah, a little Brandy on there, huh?
We've had her on twice.
Yeah.
She's agreed to come back on again. Our people,
Sure.
Tom, is working with her people, Brandy.
Oh, you
coordinate.
guys have people.
We have,
That's
Tom,
pretty awesome.
Yeah,
You're the people. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're
Nice.
You may not have been aware of this by looking at our shoddy studio, but we're a multinational organization.
I have no doubt, man.
Well-oiled machine.
I noticed that. Absolutely.
Do you know what we would love to do since you're our Vegas? You're now our Vegas contact, by the way.
Okay. Let's do it.
We would love to broadcast live in Vegas.
Let's do it.
We would love to do that.
Yeah, I can arrange it.
Can you really?
Yeah.
You'll be my favorite Chris ever. Of all the Chris's I know, and I know a bunch, you'll be my favorite.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's talk about the Semi Bird and Dave Reichert conundrum,
man.
Right? So I'm going to tell you what I see,
Okay.
and then you tell me if I'm right, and you expound on it.
Okay.
I love Semi. We've had Semi on the show a couple times.
He's
I'm
a
hoping
nice
to get
guy.
him on again. Really nice guy. Really
He's
well
super
spoken.
nice. Yep.
I think he's a really good motivator, especially for the younger demographic,
Yep.
Republicans to get him out and vote.
Yep.
However,
Comma.
his war chest, he's got about as much in the bank as I do. And it's great for me. It's not so great for a candidate.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Reichert seems to have the pull of the rank and file Republican Party. The big Republican donors are behind him. That's where
Yeah.
the money's going.
Yeah.
I think Bird needs to step out. Not slap on Bird at all.
No.
But for the sanctity of the race, I think
Mhm.
Bird needs to step out. What do you think?
So 3 weeks ago, full disclosure, 3 weeks ago, I went, I had a conversation I mentioned earlier with Semi,
Mhm.
and the conversation was surrounding the idea of him stepping out and stepping into the lieutenant governor race.
Mhm.
Not because I think he's wrong on issues, not because of him personally or anything to do with his personal life or the accusations made against him. For me, it had nothing to do with that. For me, I look at it as a GC. He's got no money. He's got no organization. So it's not just the money, right? So one of the first things when I took over Lauren's campaign in November of 19, the first thing I had to build was a statewide organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to recruit people around the state. And as the organization grew, I took about 3 months to properly set up regional directors throughout the state that were kind of like mini campaign managers. And then I empowered them to campaign on behalf of Lauren, right? And so we started to build some synergy. And then in March, we threw kind of a Hail Mary play. We did we brought in Sheriff David Clark,
Mhm.
America's Sheriff.
Yeah.
We did a fundraiser there, and that fundraiser really got Lauren some traction. It gave him some credibility amongst Republicans, and especially the base. And by the base, I mean the more right-leaning base. And then from there, we just started. If you go back and you look at the PDCs, I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this. So from December, when I actually took over fundraising, so December, January, February, March, April, all the way through the end of the election, we raised more money than we did the month prior.
Okay.
So that was one of the ways that I was tracking that we were making progress moving forward, was that we never took a step back.
Mhm.
Right. And so I'm not seeing any of that sort of consistency from Semi.
Mhm.
And, Semi's had difficulty keeping staff. I think there's various reasons for that I'm not going to get into. I think, some of the staff that he had on staff, I know them. I think they're good people. A few of them I've had differences with, but, I think fundamentally, I think they're good people. I think that they are maybe swimming in waters a little bit deeper than what their skill level is.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a personal opinion. It's not a dig at them. It's
Yeah.
just kind of where they're at. And then I think they had some people on staff that didn't know what the heck they were doing,
Mhm.
which is obvious. And then he was just getting gouged. Like he was paying, one guy $5,000 a month, paying these other people $3,500. Why? Why is your burn rate so high? Part of the problem is one thing that I will say, and I said this to him on when I was talking with him, was that I think your leadership style is a little bit, not right on this. You've got to if you hire a GC or you hire a campaign manager, you got to let them run it. And his retort to that was that I can't, if they don't know what they're doing, like I can't trust them. and because there were people that were doing things wrong. And, he was handling his own PDC reports, and he was doing these different things. Listen, if you are a candidate out there and you are listening to this, you cannot, under any circumstances, handle your own treasury work. There has to be some sort of plausible deniability between you and the money, right? Not legally, but just there has to be plausible deniability. You cannot do your own treasury work. If you are doing your own treasury work, you have already lost the race straight out of the gate. Like, you've got to get a treasurer, you've got to get a staff, even if they're volunteer people, right? I mean, if you're running for a local water board, right? Chris, this is a $5,000 race, $6,000 race, $10,000 race. I can't afford a consultant. Well, then buy some books, read some stuff online, like get some volunteers. I wrote a book about it. It's available on Amazon. I mean, go read about how to do this and then empower them to go do it, right? And Semi just he hasn't had that sort of stability. And I talked to the guy that's running his campaign right now. I talked to him in Spokane a couple weeks ago when they had their convention. Super guy. I mean, none of these people are bad people. Like, they're all like genuinely like good human beings. I really like the guy. But as much as I like the guy, he's never done this before, literally. And so your first foray into politics is to run a statewide multi-million-dollar gig, and you don't know the first thing about politics. Right? Or campaigning. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And so again, for me, it's not about right on the issues, wrong on the issues, socialism, not socialism. It's not about all of that stuff. Are you viable? Are you not viable? Are you doing the work? Are you not doing the work? There's a saying, the iron is the iron. It's the same for you as it is for me. So when we both go into the gym, are you doing the work or are you not doing the work? Clearly my fat self, I'm not doing the work in the gym. But I'm just saying, the iron is the iron. Right. It is what it is. The polls are the polls. The financials that come out, the C4 reports here in this state, they are what they are. And if you're not going to do the work, then you need to go to the House. That's the bottom line. And
is Semi, I don't know if this is a question you're prepared to answer. Is Semi a guy that you think can learn from this experience and in 2 years, 4 years run for something, maybe not this big state office, right? But take the lessons he learned from this along with the skills he already has, the interpersonal ability to relate to people personally, all of that. Is he a guy that comes out of what this race has become, like a phoenix out for another race later? Do you think he's that guy?
I think he could. I think, though, that there's a lot of damage being done to his reputation needlessly. I think some of it is vicious. I think some of it is uncalled for. I think that Lauren, we're seeing the same thing in this cycle as we saw with Lauren in the last one, and how Lauren was attacked with things that were not true, with these court cases and different things that all got adjudicated, and it all ended up exactly the way that we said. But with Semi, these things are coming out, and they've been very vicious, and his family is deeply hurt over it, as well they should. I mean, they've attacked his family, they've attacked him. I went through that. They called my two daughters, one of which, oh yeah, absolutely. They tried to dig up dirt on me. They called my ex-wife. They called ex-business partners. They called different people trying to dig up dirt on me because they were going to run and smear me with it. And then they accused me of embezzling money from Lauren. And then they accused me of all kinds of things. It was all BS. But there are just certain lines that some of these people, they don't mind crossing. And one of the reasons that I'm here in Washington State these couple weeks is very simple. Like, we need to stop that. Okay. I'm not here to go and make people pay bills from 4 years ago. Okay. I'm here to say, okay, we've got to stop. In Washington State, if conservatives are going to win any seats in the legislature, either in the upper or lower house, and we're going to even have a remote shot at the governor's mansion, we got to stop it. You got to stop. Because I will take a Dave Reichert, whom I don't agree with on a lot of issues. I will be honest with you. I did not like a lot of his voting in D.C. But I will take him 10 out of 10 times over the Machiavellian, just fundamentally flawed human being that is Bob Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
He's a terrible human being. And if you need evidence of that, all you have to do is look at Tim Eyman and how he went after Tim Eyman. Mm-hmm. He made it personal with Eyman. And he used his office to go after Eyman to destroy him in every way that a man can be destroyed. I think it's despicable. It is everything that is wrong with politics. And Bob Ferguson embodies all of that. Yeah. I will take Reichert. Well, and that, 10 times over Bob.
And that's been the issue that I have with Republicans, right? They're like, well, we want everything. We want it all.
Right.
And if we can't have it all, then we're gonna burn this crap down.
Right.
And 4 years ago, they couldn't get it all. So they burned this crap down and they gave us 4 more years of Jay Inslee.
That's right.
What has that gotten us?
That's right.
You know, what is that?
So 4 years ago, it was the more mainstream moderate Republicans that were like, we're just all done. We're not going to do anything here. Mm-hmm. So Lauren raised $3.3 million. Okay. All small donations. Mm-hmm. We didn't take lobby money. We didn't take any of that stuff. It was all small. Okay. And the WSRP did not give us any money, as in zero. 4 years prior to that, they'd given Bryant $1.2 million. Okay. Wow. So when we won the primary, I was thinking to myself, well, hey, listen, we're going to get a bump from the party.
No bump.
There wasn't no bump.
No bump.
And so.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, man. It really doesn't.
And now we don't have the money. I brought some numbers. Maybe we can talk about them in the next segment if you want to actually do it.
Let's do that. Let's do one more. We'll do one more segment at the top of the hour, and
cool.
we'll get into some of the numbers and we'll break this down. This is interesting stuff to me because I lead emotionally on a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like Paul says, that's why you're a Democrat, because you lead with your emotions and not the logic.
That's okay.
Paul's a jerk. But I do. I lead emotionally on things, like how things make me feel, what my perception is of them, and I'm not a bottom line dollar guy kind of guy, because I feel like as things feel is where the money will go. Right. Like, I mean, if it's something emotional that you attach to emotionally, your money's going to follow you there.
Of course.
You know, I think in church today, my pastor said that, you know, if you want to know what's important to somebody, you look at what their time, energy, and money goes to.
100%.
You know? I think it's the same thing with politics. But this stuff is really interesting to me. So we'll break it down when we get into the next segment.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll also go to the top of the hour. We'll check into some of your comments in chat.
I bet people are going to be mad.
I'm looking forward to it, man. People get mad at me all the time, too. They're like, Kevin, you're a Democrat. Why are you even talking about the Republicans? You don't even understand what's going on. I'm not a Republican, but I'll tell you that I'm sick of Democrats screwing the state. It's all that we watch. It's all that we've seen for almost 40 years in the state. I mean, there's a reason why we have the second highest gas tax in the nation. Right. It's the reason why our inflation rate is outrageous. It's the reason why the Washington State ferry system couldn't drive its way out of a dock. It's the reason why the roads suck. It's the reason why the Tacoma Narrows Bridge just came out and announced that you're going to be paying on the bridge even longer. Thanks for that, Emily Randall, you turd burglar. I swear to God. Anyway, all right.
Kevin's a closet libertarian.
Yeah. I'm not. I actually believe in things. Outlaw Radio. We're back after this on Mega Talk.
Ouch.
Wow.
All right, Outlaw Radio. Listen, Chris, I'm just going to take this, man. You were a fun interview.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'm really enjoying this.
Likewise.
I wasn't sure, you know, because obviously transparency. Obviously, Jesse was the one, as I was talking to Jesse yesterday, and Jesse, well, what you want to talk to Chris? I'm like, well, let's talk to Chris. And I've had a lot of people say, you're just a great guy, and
I appreciate
you're really
that.
knowledgeable, but God, man, you're a fun interview.
Well, I appreciate that.
You ever decide you want to get into radio full time? I'll fire Paul in a heartbeat.
Oh,
you just let me know. I'll fire Paul in a moment.
Listen, I just want you to know I'm not coming for your job. I just want you to know that.
I'm Tom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, Paul's. I'm not sure where Paul is tonight.
Paul's he's in the chat, but he's not here.
As I say, we're ready for when Jesse wins. We're already ready.
Yeah, this is State Representative Jesse Young, and you're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network.
Oh, there you go.
And it's funny, as the Dem, right? As a little more liberal guy, and Jesse's very conservative. Him and I don't agree on everything politically. We've had some really great conversations on this show, but there is there really Paul said, no, you won't. There is probably nobody else. Well, maybe and I'm not knocking Travis at all, but his seatmate, Dan Griffey and Jesse Young, I hold really in the highest regard. Mm-hmm. And they're on the opposing party, mm-hmm. but they are guys that have integrity. Mm-hmm. They do what they say they're going to do. They stand by what they believe in. Mm-hmm. They never blow sunshine up your ass. Right. They just talk straight. And if you don't like it, sorry, but it's the truth.
Are we on Facebook?
We're on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's a big shit sandwich and everybody's got to take a bite, they're going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
You swore why your wife's going to be so mad at us now.
I know.
Be like, you can never go on that show again.
But you know what? My wife swears more than I do, so I'm not worried about it. If she says anything to me, I'll be like, whatever, baby doll. You know you swear more than I do.
Yeah.
So
no, I've had that guy to my house, around my kids, like, and I keep a tight circle on that stuff, but I trust him to death. And if I had to walk into battle with somebody, I'm not pulling a Democrat in there with me. I'm really not. There's no Democrats in there I'm pulling in there with me.
Jesse is one of those, what I call a 3 a.m. person for me. Like if I'm on the side of the road and I happen to be in Geek Harbor or somewhere around here, like I'm calling Jesse. Yeah. Like he's genuinely, he's my friend. And, he and I just kind of clicked. There's people you meet, you just kind of click with. Mm-hmm. You're just like, no, that's a good dude. There's so many people in this world that are not authentic people, but that one's a good guy. I felt that way about Jesse. He's been to my house in Vegas. He's broken bread with me. My wife has, knows his wife, and we've, broken bread at my table before. And he's just one of those just good human beings. And a lot of people within the party have smeared him, and we're going to make all that right this cycle. And we're going to get him back into office and move forward. Yeah, so
I hope so. I mean, I really like the guy. I know that there's some headbutting that goes on behind the scenes, and
yeah.
And I probably know things I can't say on air, but sure. But I will just say that my hope is it clears itself out. There's a lot of work to be done.
Oh yeah.
And as
we will see.
And we can't afford, oh my God, like I'm a Republican. We can't afford, because I'm a believer in 50-50, right? Mm. I want to see 50, maybe 51 to 50 to 49. I want to see a good buffer of
absolutely
Democrats and Republicans, so that they have to work with each other.
Sure.
We can't afford for the Democrats to get more seats. Mm. Because the more seats they get, the more unyielded power they have, and the more unilateral stuff they can do. And the rest of us that have a brain are like, well, this is stupid.
Right.
My soapbox. You ready?
I love it.
Democrats say they're the party of the poor. They're not.
No.
Because every decision they make unilaterally affects the poor worse than everybody. Gas prices go up, that screws the poor.
That's right.
Medical prices go up, that screws the poor. Yep. People that make $80,000 a year, people that are in a good bracket, we can afford to absorb those numbers far better than somebody making $20,000-$25,000 a year. And that's ridiculous. The Dems still claim to be a party of the poor. All right, we're going to come back on AM. I'm done. I'm done venting. We're going to get back to Chris Gergen.
Okay.
You'll have one more chance after this.
After this on Outlaw Radio. Stop it. The mics are still on.
Happy trees.
Happy